Hi, I'm GIlfillan. Welcome to the Lounge with GIlfillan. Alright, so we got a couple things to go over today. This will probably be a shorter episode than we have usually. Did take quite a bit to put this together, but a new edition of Trapeze is out. Originally I was not going to really go over it, but I looked at the local news stories. There doesn't seem to be much. There was a robbery at the Blue Line, and there was a ruling on food trucks in Chicago City Hall, I believe, requiring them to have trackers, among a wide variety of other things, regulating them to... I believe their reasoning was that it would provide long-term success for the city economically. Either way, you can look that all up on oakpark.com if you're interested in either of those stories. However, I don't believe that they're the most interesting things to go over, and it's going to take up quite a bit of time to get those together. Either way, new edition of Trapeze is out. There are quite a few things in there. It goes into further detail about Ralph's resignation, which we already talked about quite a bit in earlier episodes. It also talks about there's actually a good article about the dress code changes for graduation attire. We already talked about that in the Lounge with London, I believe. You can look that up. That's a transgender student who commented on it, so it's a pretty good interview. And then there's two things on the back. We've already covered the pro-life bills, I believe. I think we only covered the Alabama one. I'm not sure if we covered the Georgia one, which this one seems to be focusing on. And then there's an article about BYU, which is a Mormon university in Utah. It's a private university that administers financial literacy or health classes online. So we'll start off with the BYU study, and I just brought this up because, I don't know, I just haven't covered it, and it's a local news story that the administration was trying to be very upset about, I guess. Or not local, I'm sorry. Well, yes, it is local. Chances are you or someone you know has taken a required class online for this is by Hannah Crosby, Trapezeonline.com. I believe you can find it there, or it's in the school newspaper that they hand out. Has taken a required class online for credit, and that means you've become familiar with Brigham Young University's online portal. But many students have neither paused their health or financial literacy class to wonder why OPRF uses BYU, a private university in Utah that admitted just 5,440 students to their most recent freshman class for online classes, when there have to be plenty of suitable alternatives. Not that there aren't reasons to pause. BYU is affiliated with the Church of Latter-day Saints, more often called the Mormon Church. Besides the obvious question of why public high school required students to take on online classes with the religious university, that the Mormon class has a troubling history of discrimination against women in the LGBT community, which includes the gay and transgender students that OPRF proudly protects. The Human Rights Campaign notes that the Mormon Church follows strict rules of sexual conduct, including commandments against premarital sex. Ooh, they actually follow religious beliefs that they have instead of throwing them out the window in favor of whatever's going on culturally. The church distinguishes between same-sex attraction and behavior, as stated on the website. The experience of same-sex attraction is a complex reality for many people. The attraction itself is not a sin, but acting out it is. I'm not sure what they mean by that definition. Does that mean premarital sex in the same-sex connotation, or... I'm not sure. The church has campaigned against same-sex marriage since the 1990s, and is some of the harshest measures against gay people of any religion. For example, in November of 2015, they officially defined marriage equality as a form of apostasy or renunciation of religious beliefs. The policy also takes aim at the children of same-sex couples unless they denounce their parents by the age of 18. They're not allowed to be baptized or become Mormons. To the church's credit, the controversial November policy was reversed in April of 2019, but as the Human Rights Campaign notes, President Oaks made clear that the church was not revising its doctrine on homosexuality, which teaches that having a same-sex attraction is not a sin, but acting on it is. That's why OPRF's recent decision to cut ties with BYU is a welcome and, some would say, overdue one. By no longer requiring students to take their online classes with an institution which has a track record of discrimination against gay people, OPRF is truly walking the inclusion walk. Greg Johnson, the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, which you guys should keep note of that name because he's going to be a lot more involved next year, was one of the administrators involved in the discussions. Due to our concern about some of their policies that stigmatize and otherwise fail to support LGBT students on their campus, Johnson said, "We determined that a shift was in order. Shift means that OPRF will recommending American School in Illinois' virtual high school, two other online class providers to students instead of BYU. Students who wish to continue taking BYU classes will be offered credit," says Johnson, "just as we do for all accredited institutions." Well, my biggest problem is, or I don't really have a big problem with this, but I will point out that it's a hypocrisy because there's some hypocrisy in there because they teach us in our health classes that, oh, abstinence till marriage is a good thing, but then when deciding policy on which universities to support, they list it's supporting commandments against premarital sex as a reason why we should leave this that school, which is not the greatest thing. And then here's a article which honestly is made up of quite a few claims that, like, Alyssa Milano put out, and it's spread around the internet, and it's not true whatsoever. So pro-life bills infringe on women's rights. Normally I wouldn't cover this, but I just read the article, and nearly everything in there is false, and I kind of want to point it all out. The Declaration of Independence, this is by Sorcha Chow, staffer. She did a good job writing it, it's just that the sources that she used were a little iffy. The Declaration of Independence preaches life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all Americans. But with the subject like abortion, the nation is divided on which perspective supports these values. With abortion, a pregnancy is terminated along with a potential life. However, when a woman is forced to have a baby, she is deprived of liberty of her body, her life as she knew it, and her pursuit of happiness. In all 50 states, abortion was legal until recently, when states including Georgia and Alabama passed bills banning abortion, labeling it as murder. With the Georgia Heartbeat Bill, a woman cannot have abortion or go out of the state to have one without being considered a murder and given prison time. This is false. The Georgia Court of Appeals has said that the statutes only apply to third parties, not to women seeking abortions, and there's a provision in the bill, which is only 10 pages long, which she clearly didn't read from reading the rest of the article, saying that the woman would not be prosecuted in the state of that. Also, a miscarriage will be classified as murder. That is not true at all. The terminology of the article say, abortion means the act of prescribing or administering any instrument, substance, device, or other means with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy with the knowledge that termination will, with reasonable likelihood, cause the death of an unborn child. Provided, however, that any such act shall not be considered an abortion if the act is performed with the purpose of A, removing a dead unborn child caused by spontaneous abortion, which I'm not sure what that terminology comes from, but later in the article they define spontaneous abortion as the naturally occurring death of an unborn child, including a miscarriage or stillbirth, or removing an ectopic pregnancy. There's specific things saying, no, that's not an abortion, and I don't understand. Does she think the people that wrote this bill are, like, extremely stupid and they don't know what a miscarriage is? And they assume, oh, she just thought with her mind, hey, I'm going to kill the baby, and then the baby dies. Oh, my God. Okay. So, the nation is in uproar as 25 Republican men have decided what goes on in a woman's uterus. What's worse, most women in Georgia and Alabama are women of color, adding a racial undertone to the state's laws. I'm not sure where she got this. 68% of people in Alabama are white, while 26% are black, and I'm not sure how the 26% of black people ended up making up most of the woman in Georgia. Maybe 100% of the 26, maybe every black person in Georgia is a woman, and I don't know. Either way, at this point, people's stances are divided. No one wants to have an abortion or a miscarriage. It is an emotionally and physically painful process, but for every 11-year-old who is raped and impregnated to women diagnosed with cancer, again, there are provisions in the bill saying, this is section 114, or line 114, okay, I'm sorry. No abortion is authorized or shall be performed if the probable gestational age of the unborn child have been determined to be in accordance with Code Section 31(9)(b)(2) to be 30 weeks or more unless the pregnancy is diagnosed as medically futile, as such term is defined in Code Section 31(9)(b)(1), or in reasonable medical judgment, the abortion is necessary to have a detectable human heartbeat, except when to avert the death of a pregnant woman or avert serious risk of substantial and irreversible physical impairment to a majorly bodily function of the pregnant woman. So if a woman were to develop cancer because of a pregnancy and the abortion was the only way, that would be irreversible physical impairment of a major bodily function of the pregnant woman, which would be exempt under the law. And everybody in between. Terminating pregnancy for their own wellness is often the best option, with women telling their abortion stories. Women winning back the right to their own bodies is an absolute necessary right now. A subject like this will never be free of controversy, with much like healthcare and gun control, but we need to look at the bigger picture. If a woman doesn't have an abortion come 9 months, she will have a baby. Putting her life at risk, she is subject to the burdens of financial issues and motherhood. Trying to put the child through obstacles such as the foster care system, vaccinations, and the education system. If people really cared about the children's lives, they would make sure foster care system is better, children in schools feel safe, and medication was more accessible. Well, actually, I believe no, it's Alabama that has the most people adopting through the foster care system of any state in the country. Or not fostering kids. Children in schools feel safe and medication is more accessible. Why they put more focus on potential children when children are alive are already suffering every day at the hands of political faults. Another argument that is that the terminated fetus could have been the next president or doctor to cure cancer. But that same goes for the thousands of children. I don't hear this argument often. I've seen it once, as someone was like, oh, I'm going to argue against that argument. It's more of a straw man that I've heard. Don't see, it's true, but you know what, let's just go on. Could have been the next president or doctor to cure cancer. But the same goes for the thousands of children suffering and dying, as well as the woman who has to put her life on hold to care for a child she didn't want. First off, adoption. Second off, no one is arguing let's make these children's lives miserable. Everyone is arguing, let's make the education side better. It's strawmanning an argument and making your opponent look bad if you just... Okay. Furthermore, by pro-life logic, if a man masturbates, the sperm he produces could also have the opportunity to be the next president or cancer-curing doctor. Actually, no. Given that the male sex cell only has 23 chromosomes, that does not have enough chromosomes to produce a human life, and generally the pro-life argument is that life, or not necessarily personhood, but life begins at conception. Some people say that personhood begins at conception, but the general argument is that life begins at conception because it has 46 chromosomes, which could develop a human life. A cell with 23 chromosomes, which is half as many chromosomes as it actually needs to function and anything except for a sex cell going through meiosis. No, it does not have the opportunity to become the next president or cancer-curing doctor. As previously stated, it is a subject with many layers. When I first heard about abortion at 10, I was terrified at the idea of a child never given the chance to live, but taking everything else into perspective, it all changes. No one is forced to root for abortion rights, but women deserve the right to their own bodies. That's why it's pro-choice, not pro-abortion. If you can't support abortion, support birth control, contraceptives, and Planned Parenthood. Well, two of those things, birth control and contraceptives, I'm not sure why they need to be supported, because no one is trying to take those away. There's not one sitting member of Congress who actually believes that. After 6 weeks, the fetus is about the size of a toenail clipping, but a woman can be sentenced for up to 99 years if she terminates her pregnancy. That is a complete lie. The only people that are able to be prosecuted, I believe, are doctors who perform the abortions, and that is there because if you're not going to prosecute anyone for doing anything, then you may as well not have the law because it's unenforceable. I'm not generally comfortable with the idea of people being prosecuted just for this generally, but how else are you going to force the law? It's either that or abortion just continues, and it's just a signaling, like, oh, we support this. Like, what does it matter if you can't enforce it and stop anything? When you limit a woman's abilities and issue double standards regarding what a man can do and what a woman can do, a woman is reduced to an object and stripped of her life, her liberty, and her pursuit of happiness. Alright, that's the end of the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I did not very much, but goodbye. Thanks so much for listening. The Lounge with Luke GIlfillan comes out every Saturday and Sunday. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you would be interested in getting notified every time a video comes out, hit the gray bell right next to the subscribe button. Credits, sources, and errors are in the description. If you find an error that I missed, please put it in the comments section. If you are interested in donating to my channel, because I bought recording equipment, which kind of costed a lot, my Patreon, which is a donation site, is in the description. If you have any feedback, put it in the comments section. Toodaloo.